Hello, students. Welcome to Chapter 2, uh, Reasoning and Proofs. So, first question is, what is logic? What do we mean by that's logical? So, one dictionary defines logical as you are able to reason with definitions in an orderly fashion that brings out fundamental points. Okay, so in this chapter, we'll talk about proofs and we'll start proofs soon. And again, we will start with basic proofs and then we'll add more and more. So that will come pretty soon. Okay. So section 2.3, conditional statements, if and then form. If you take science course such as biology or chemistry, you may experiment with, you are doing labs, and typically what you do, you form a hypothesis and then you test it, and then you check whether your hypothesis was correct or incorrect. Okay, so in this class, okay, we will talk about if and then statements. So if part is called the hypothesis, okay, and then part is called the conclusion. Okay, so in this case, if an animal is a cow, then it has 4 legs. Okay, so the hypothesis will be the first part. That will be your hypothesis. And your conclusion will be it has 4 legs. So the if part is your hypothesis, and then the then part, that is your conclusion. Okay? So in mathematics, we tend to be lazy sometimes and we prefer to use symbols. Okay? So mathematicians, they don't like to write all sentences. So there are symbols that can be used to represent these. So if P is the hypothesis and the Q is the conclusion, then you could simply write if P, then Q. Okay, so you can write this sentence, or we can even move faster, and instead of writing the word then, okay, we can just use arrow. So in other words, if I say if P, then Q, okay, so I can just write P, then Q. So how do you read this? If P, then Q. So let's look at one example, practice A. Let P be I get a job. Let Q be I will earn money. Let R represent I will go to the movies. And then let S be I will spend my money. So use the legend above to translate the following form symbols to English. So the first one is if P, then Q. Okay, so this means if I get a job, so if I get a job, then I will earn money. Okay, so now please take a minute and try example number 2. So pause the video and try example number 2. So I hope you already did it, okay? And the second one is if Q, then R, okay? So the second sentence is if Q, then R. So what does this mean? If I will earn money, then I will go to the movies. Okay, so let's translate this. If I will then I will go to the movies. Okay, so I hope that you got the idea. So how that's how you translate if P then Q. Uh, and now let's move on to the next part of the lesson. So the next part of the lesson is we will form a converse of a conditional statement. So converse. Many students think about shoes, converse. No, we will not talk about shoes. Converse is basically you reverse if and then. So in the first example, I have if an animal is a cow, then it has four legs. Okay? If an animal is a cow, then it has four legs. So your job is to form a converse of the statement. Again, how do you form converse? You switch if and then. Okay? So in this case, I will have if an animal has four legs, then it is a cow. Now, is this statement true or not? That's not the point of the lesson yet. Okay, we'll talk about counterexamples soon. Okay, so the converse would be if an animal has four legs, then it is a cow. So take a minute, pause the video, and try example 2 on your own. Okay. So now, example number 2: if a point is a midpoint, then it divides a segment into two congruent segments. So the converse would be if it divides a segment into two congruent segments, then it is a midpoint. Or you can say then a point is a midpoint. Okay, so again, converse, all you do, you switch if and then. Okay, the next part of the lesson is negation. Okay, in mathematics, sometimes we negate. For example, angle A is acute, and then we say angle A is not acute. Okay, so negation basically means not P. So in this example, I have if an animal is a dog. Okay, so P stands for if an animal is a dog. That's your hypothesis. Okay, the negation would be not P. Okay, and the symbol we use in mathematics, we use this symbol. But some mathematicians, I notice in different textbooks, they also use this symbol, like kind of like a L. In class, again, we'll talk about both symbols. So the negation would be if an animal is not a dog. Okay? And the most important part of this video is to talk about three other types of statements associated with the conditional statement. Okay? So, conditional statement is always in the form if P, then Q. So the conditional statement is always in the form if P, then Q. The converse, you already know about it. You switch if and then. So the converse would be if Q, then P. Okay. Now the third one, which is new to you, is called inverse. How do you form inverse? I don't know if you noticed, inverse, you have this little symbol and this little symbol. And what does that mean? Negation. So to form inverse, you negate the conditional statement. So you put not and not. And the last one is called contrapositive. Okay. And do me a favor and please compare contrapositive with converse. In other words, please compare contrapositive and converse. They're very similar. The only difference is when you form a contrapositive, you actually negate the converse. Okay, so let's look at one example. So the example we have for you is, if international tensions are not reduced, then their world peace is in jeopardy. Okay, so that's your conditional statement. Okay, so your P is the first part. So that's your hypothesis. That's your P. And Q is your second part. So P is international tensions are reduced, not reduced. And your conclusion is world peace is in jeopardy. Okay? So how do I find converse? To form a converse, you switch if and then. In other words, if Q, then P. Okay? So converse. If world peace is in jeopardy, comma, then international tensions are not reduced. Okay? Then international tensions are not reduced. And it's funny how I write with this little pen. Okay, so let me just say it again. If world peace is in jeopardy, then international tensions are not reduced. Okay, so that's how you form a converse. Now, our job is to create or form an inverse. Okay, so how do you form an inverse? Inverse, you negate the conditional statement. Okay, so the conditional statement was, if international tensions are not reduced, then the world peace is in jeopardy. So if you are negate it, you will have, if international tensions are reduced. Okay, so inverse. If international are reduced, then the world is not in jeopardy. Okay, and the last thing I want you to do is to create a contrapositive. Okay, so the last one we'll create is called a contrapositive. And how do you create a contrapositive? You negate the inverse. So contrapositive. So contrapositive, look at the converse. Sorry, I don't know if I said it correctly. To form a contrapositive, you negate the converse. Okay, so let's take a look at our converse, and then let's negate our converse. So our converse was, if world peace is in jeopardy, then international tensions are not reduced. Okay, so the converse would be, if world peace is not in jeopardy, then international tensions are reduced. Then international tensions. Let me just double check my converse so I remember what I'm writing. Then international tensions are reduced. Okay, so I apologize for my messy handwriting, but again, today in class we talked about conditional statements, okay? And we talked about if P then Q. We also talked about negation, if not P, not Q. But the most important part of the lesson was to form a converse, inverse, and contrapositive. Okay? Thank you very much for watching the video.